Milo Yiannopoulos and gay pedophilia hysteria. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I did not want to make another video where I talk about Milo Yiannopoulos, certainly not defending him right after his remarks about the transgender community, which I do not endorse. But I have not only gotten a bunch of requests for me to talk about the pedophilia situation, but I have also been meaning to make a video on the subject anyway, even though it is a topic that doesn't particularly interest me as an individual, maybe because I'm not a pedophile and never had sex with an older man when I was underage. First off, I do think that this is a smear campaign, especially considering his statements were from a while ago. But before I actually get into the details about the specifics, I just need to point out that a lot of this hysteria wouldn't happen if Milo wasn't a gay guy. So if Milo wants to talk about never being the victim of homophobia after this, that's a bit weird. And don't harp on the semantics of the term homophobia, because this is not just people being anti-gay. Pedophilia, hysteria around gay men is full-blown phobia stuff. Sure, the statements largely revolved around Milo's personal young sex experiences, but as he said repeatedly, he thinks that things tend to be different in gay culture than in heterosexual culture, and I agree with that. I mean, think of it like this. Gay guys around the age of 13 onward are just as horny as every other young fella. But unlike straight boys, they don't get almost any chances of having a young gay guy their age to have sex with. So they often purposefully seek out older gay men because they feel like that's the only option. I am not saying this is either a good thing or a bad thing. I fortunately didn't feel compelled to do this myself, and the only time I fooled around with anybody when I was in early puberty, it happened to be my friend who was exactly the same age, though we didn't have penetrative sex and we wouldn't have known how to if we wanted to. Regardless, for whatever reason, likely having to do with stories about the ancient Greeks who had intergenerational relationships between old men and young guys, there's a huge stereotype that gay men are pedophiles, and this is a gigantic, shitty thing that we regularly do have to deal with as gay men. Gay men have to worry about pedophilia allegations so much more than anybody else, which is kind of weird because I notice a lot more straight guys being into young women than I do gay guys being into relatively young guys. At least from my personal anecdotal experiences. Usually, half of the gay guys I know are into older guys, and have been for some time. I personally haven't had sex with any guys under the age of 18 ever, minus the friend I fooled around with when we were both super young. Because past college, I almost entirely dated and slept with older guys. Yes, I have been a bit of what we call a daddy chaser myself. Still, there's no good way to explain that feeling that you get as an adult gay male, especially when you're over 30, when you're around parents and you can sense that they're uncomfortable with you being around their kids because you're a gay guy. It's just a feeling, but you know when it's happening. Sometimes it's blatant. Even nice, non-homophobic people will get noticeably uncomfortable if you decide to have a few drinks at a dinner party with their kids around. And it's not even confined to male children. It's like they think that because you're gay, you turn bisexual when it comes to children. Which is ridiculous, obviously. Even my own mother seemed to be affected by the mass cultural stigma against gay men interacting with children, though I don't think she actually believes gay men to be more likely to be pedophiles. I'm pretty sure she believes that that is bullshit. Still, I was mentioning to her that I wanted to maybe volunteer to teach a ping pong class at a community center to get some exercise and to get out of the house more. And I obviously meant for kids because how many adults do you know who would take a ping pong class? What was her response? She mentioned immediately that they very thoroughly vet any adult male who might want to teach a class to make sure they are not pedophiles. Which was pretty awkward. I have no idea if my mom would say that to her straight son. Maybe, maybe not, but I don't even have a brother. That all said, as gay guys especially, my personal feeling is that if we are allowed to be open with our sexualities, and don't suffer from a lot of weird sexual repression that can come out in creepy ways later in life, I legitimately think that psychologically healthy gay guys are probably less likely to have inappropriate pedophilic tendencies than heterosexual guys. And I say that for a very specific reason. Once you get to a certain age as a gay guy, you realize that lots of young boys are uncomfortable around you. And this isn't the same for straight guys with young girls. Especially if the kids know that you are gay, a lot of them tend to get weird. And even if they won't admit it, their parents likely are uncomfortable with you being around their kids. That said, it becomes extremely uncomfortable as a gay guy to be around male children on occasion. And although I know there's sexual masochists out there that get off on feeling uncomfortable, I can only assume that most gay men feel like myself and get a deeply engraved automatic reflex of disgust when you ever even consider being attracted to an underage guy. I think everybody should admit to themselves that when they see a 15-year-old who is in good shape and is overwhelmingly good looking in a bathing suit at the beach, they can tell that it is an attractive person, male or female. When Joe Rogan said that he thinks to himself that a hot 15-year-old girl will be hot when she's older, I think that he was just covering his own ass to a certain degree to not sound like a creep. I think that what really goes on in people's minds is that we can see a fully developed young person, and we might even be attracted to them, but then that instinct that we have trained ourselves with kicks in very quickly, and we lose our sex drive towards the individual because it is a turnoff to feel like you are creeping out on somebody underage. I like to think of this kind of like another beach metaphor. Let's say you were at a nude beach and you saw a naked man or woman, depending upon your preference, and they were sleeping with their legs spread right apart. Their legs are spread in just the right way that you could easily just go over there and start fucking them, and they are super fucking hot. Don't tell me you wouldn't at least look for a moment and think to yourself, damn, they're hot. You would, in fact, be attracted to them. But of course, they're also a sleeping person, so you wouldn't go over there and start fucking them, even if you could get away with it, unless you're a total fucking psycho. It's not even that you make a conscious choice to, not be attracted to them. You just realize that they're sleeping. And then the thought of raping them turns you off because it's gross to you. So you probably won't even look at them for all that long either, because you feel like a creep. You know that this is not socially acceptable to have sex with an unconscious person or to just stare at them for a long time. And so it's kind of similar to when you know that it is not socially acceptable to have sex with even fully developed and willing young people who are underage. And therefore, it turns you off. That's how adults think about sex with underage people. Usually. However, it gets super complicated when you start taking into account the perspective of a young person who had consensual sex with an older person, especially a young person that never feels bad about it as they age into adult life. You can read an account from a woman who had consensual sex with David Bowie when she was 14. She pursued David Bowie for at least a few weeks, if not longer, and even competed with a friend over who would get to have sex with him first. And she never regretted it. She considers it a wonderful experience. Milo says that he was the predator when he had sex with older men. And that is not uncommon from my understanding. I have heard numerous accounts of young people pursuing older people for sexual relationships, and it's hard to know what happens on an individual basis between every couple. I mean, it's entirely different if some 13-year-old boy goes to a park and gets fucked by a man in his 40s in a bush than it is if a 25-year-old sports coach ends up having sex with a 15-year-old dude after the 15-year-old pursued him for a year, especially between gay men, who, again, have difficulty finding people their age to have sex with when they're young. While I will state again that I have a personal aversion to having sex with guys significantly younger than myself because it sets off almost an immediate alarm in my head to even think about this, which is very unsexy for me, I can imagine that some guys who coach 15-year-olds eventually grow very comfortable around the young males and decide that maybe one of them is mature enough to make an informed decision. So, would it be such a horrible crime for both of them to partake in consensual sex? In some countries, it isn't a crime at all. But you can make that decision for yourself if it's a bad thing. The bottom line is that once somebody goes through puberty, they get horny, they start giving off pheromones, and eventually somebody is going to be attracted to them whether or not it is somebody their age. In a perfect world, everybody would have their first sexual experiments with somebody close to their age. But again, it is often a lot more complicated for gay men for the reasons I already said. So, knowing that something along these lines happened to Milo, the only option he has in his adult life is trying to make sense of it. He can't spend every conversation he ever gets into about it acting as if he was some abused victim. Because when he remembers it, he remembers being fully willing and enjoying it. So if he said otherwise, he would be severely compromising his integrity, which granted he doesn't have a lot of, but it's definitely out of character for him to play the victim of sexual abuse. It doesn't match the narrative that he peddles. That said, people kept asking me about this one specific line, which was in relation to when Milo was on Joe Rogan, and he talked about some specific parties in Hollywood that he attended. He said that there were a lot of young boys at those parties, or a lot of boys who were very young, very young boys at those parties. So when he said that, does boys mean technically adults? I'm not sure. What I would take it to mean, and this is just an educated guess from having been around the block in gay land for 20 years, is that Milo meant that he did not know how old the young men were who were using drugs and having sex with older men. And he didn't ask. I would imagine they were probably no younger than 16 or so, which I believe is definitely still illegal, though I have no idea. I wasn't there. He could, however, be referring to young people that looked 18 years old as boys. That is a definite possibility. You see, Milo is not really condoning pedophilia in my opinion, mainly because he said that the law was about the right age, though he defines pedophilia as prepubescent attraction, and he thinks it's fine for some people to have different standards of consent, and when they are ready at different ages, it's fine to him or whatever. Especially in the gay world, probably for the reasons I articulated earlier. Sure, Milo excused the priest that abused him, but that seemed to be largely just humor, and I think he is allowed to use humor as a way to talk about his past, even if he has strange feelings about it. I know plenty of guys who have had such things in their past who use humor to cope, and I think that's fair. So, well, I think that it's a shame that Milo has ended up losing his book deal. I absolutely do think that this also is a sign that homophobia is alive and well in culture because of the extreme nuance of what was actually said and the reaction, as well as how different it would be if some straight guy was on Joe Rogan talking about losing his virginity to an older woman at 13, and I just think people should generally calm down about this one specific detail. Milo has said plenty of disagreeable things in my opinion, and I can't say I completely 100% endorse his feelings on this topic, but I certainly think he should be allowed to have a nuanced discussion about age of consent laws, and in particular how they affect gay culture and how they differ between heterosexual culture. I think he should be able to have that discussion without people creating a giant smear campaign to ruin his entire reputation by saying he endorses pedophilia. I don't think that's what he was saying. That's all I have to say. Drop me a comment, help me out on Patreon if I seem cool to you, and stay tuned.